President Biden left President Trump with an absolute economic mess. President Trump met with a group of great farmers from around the country and announced $12 billion in relief for them.
This is a big deal, and it's also not funded by tax dollars, it's funded by tariffs.
I want to watch a couple clips of Karoline Leavitt on Newsmax as she hilariously attempts to defend the Trump's bailout to farmers needed because of his terrible trade and economic policy. If you can, leave us a like on the video. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, and let's hop right into the takedown.
I know one of the things that upsets a lot of folks is the price of groceries. And yesterday, President Trump announced a $9 billion aid package to support our farmers, strengthen the agriculture industry. And that's not just helping our farmers. It will pass down to people at the grocery store. This is a big deal, and it's also not funded by tax dollars, it's funded by tariffs.
That's right. Yes. Yesterday, here at the White House, President Trump met with a group of great farmers from around the country and announced $12 billion in relief for them, again, funded through his successful tariffs, which have brought in billions of dollars back into our country to refuel our manufacturing industry.
Okay, so much stupidity in a short time. I'll try to get to it all. He says paid by tariffs instead of taxpayers to make it seem like, of course, it's not a bailout at your expense. However, tariffs are, of course, paid for by the American consumer. And this actually makes it worse because if it was paid for by taxpayers, you could leverage most of the burden onto the wealthy, onto corporations, not to the working class. However, tariffs act as a regressive tax, having the biggest effects on those with the least. So the working class, the poor, that. This is Trump literally taking from the poor to bail out farmers because his policy sucks and he wants to prioritize keeping the wealthy's money with the wealthy. Then she says, what, tariffs were successful in like booming the manufacturing? Manufacturing is down. We had 3 or 4 consecutive months of manufacturing job loss under Donald Trump, the worst numbers since I think COVID. I don't know what that could even mean.
Another huge win for our farmers following his successful meeting with President Xi in South Korea, where Trump convinced President Xi to continue purchasing or begin purchasing again American soybeans, which is something China wasn't doing under the last administration because they had no respect for our President Biden or for the country at the time. But now they know President Trump is not messing around. He's going to stand up for American farmers and American families. And so those purchases have begun.
It's funny because China is promising to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans from the US. Again, promised. But even that, like if they do it, is only half of the typical annual volume. It still leaves farmers struggling with soaring prices for things like fertilizer, repair parts, or even seed. They're still just going to be going to these markets breaking even or hoping to. It's also, of course, well under what we were seeing regularly under Biden, of whom they're unanimously trying to blame for this issue. I guess every single problem ever tracks back to Joe Biden somehow. Not a single problem is actually their fault or something they failed to properly address. It sounds almost unbelievable, huh?
Gas prices are at their lowest point right now than they have been in 5 years, and we do expect them to continue to decline as long as President Trump is here to drill, baby, drill. So all of these actions are actions President Trump took to build the greatest economy in history in his first term. It is working. It takes time because, as you pointed out, Mark, President Biden left President Trump with an absolute economic mess.
When people start alluding to gas prices as to a president's strong economic policy, you can be sure that they've completely lost the argument. Joe Biden drilled more oil than we ever have before in history. He approved more permits. We were more energy independent, not only than we ever have been in history, but than any country ever has been at any point ever in the world. To pretend that Donald Trump has came in and somehow drilled more oil, drilled our way to lower gas prices is absurdly dumb. But I love that, like, we're again signaling to a mess left by Joe Biden, despite every macroeconomic trend being headed up or down, depending on what was good. Like inflation was down, unemployment was down, GDP was up when Biden left office, and now all of them objectively being worse, headed in the opposite direction. So it makes no logical sense what they're saying. It literally is just the kid response to getting in trouble, where you just try to point your finger at anyone else because you know it's kind of hard to take accountability. MAGA politics don't work, small government principles fail, removing DEI hurts business, and mass deportations are harmful to an economy. These are all objectively true things that are being showcased by this administration.